I consider Winnipeg to be very heavily filled with a lot of meth addicts, and it is all around me.
29-year-old Emily knows firsthand. She's been using methamphetamine on and off for years, but now, for more than 100 days, she's been sober. She's encountered several instances of people inches from death due to drug overdose and has lost a loved one herself to the crisis. She says a supervised consumption site would help save lives in the city of Winnipeg.
I think addicts deserve an option, just because they may not be ready to get sober. At least Winnipeg needs to offer a place where addicts can feel comfortable and, have the resource options open for them.
A report recently presented at a city committee meeting found that a significant number of people in the city who use drugs would utilize a supervised consumption site for safety reasons, but also for the community and to access services around employment, treatment, and housing. For Emily, an aspiring visual artist in the city who asked to use her first name only to protect her family, she says the need for the site is obvious.
It's just heartbreaking to see it just happen in the streets where kids walk, where families walk. It's nothing a kid should witness firsthand, and I think a consumption site would absolutely help save Winnipeg.
The report submitted to city officials found some overdoses in the city are climbing rapidly, with 398 opiate overdoses reported to Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Services in 2019 compared to 1,226 in 2020. The report also found that 2021, this year, is set to surpass the 2020 figures.
We have a very toxic drug supply here in Winnipeg.
Project Safe Audience, which offers drug testing services to drug users in the city, says the city's supply, especially for drugs used by vulnerable and marginalized populations like opiates, heroin, and fentanyl, commonly known as downs, is a dangerous one.
And we're seeing a wide variation in the downs. So we're seeing anywhere between like 5% by weight up to about 30% by weight. And if you're trying to dose your drugs and you're dosing a drug that is active in such small amounts, a variation between 5 to 30 is extremely dangerous.
He says some drugs like fentanyl, while toxic to begin with, become even more dangerous when mixed with other substances, which can create naloxone-resistant drugs. And he says he's hearing from people on the front lines that the toxic and sometimes fatal mix is present in the city. While Project Safe Audience feels a supervised consumption site is critical for the city moving forward, they'd like to see the introduction of a safe supply in the city where people can access the drugs they use with less risk.
We need to provide a safe supply so people know what's in their substances. When I go to the alcohol store or the cannabis store, I know what I'm buying. I know the percentage of THC and I know the percentage of alcohol. If I go out and buy fentanyl, I don't know the percentage of the fentanyl in there, and that's why we're having people dying.
The report details how the location of the site and partnerships around it are critical, as in other Canadian cities, these sites have not always been welcomed into neighborhoods. The report itself is headed back to committee in October, but for advocates and those who have lost loved ones to the overdose crisis, they say the site can't come fast enough. In Winnipeg, Morgan Majeski, City News.